Hello, and welcome to SCG Global Spin. Your host today is Cristina Sánchez-Vebber. Cristina is a partner at Sánchez Devanny and has 17 years of experience in the legal industry with a focus on corporate transactional work. Cristina provides legal guidance and advice to individuals entering Mexico to do business, as well as assistance to clients that already have Mexican operations that they wish to expand. She also helps clients coordinate their operations with other jurisdictions and provides day-to-day legal advice. Joining Cristina today is Melissa Salhab Sykes. Melissa is a partner at McGinnis Lochridge and has more than 20 years of experience in the electric energy industry. She has extensive experience representing electric cooperatives and municipally owned utilities across the state of Texas in business transactions. In addition to her work at McGinnis Lochridge, she sits on multiple boards and serves on the firm's management committee.
Good morning, Melissa. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Cristina. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. And thank you for doing this interview to find out a little bit more about Texas and your practice and your firm. So why don't we get started, and let me ask you a question. What do you prefer, beach or mountain?
I prefer beach, I have to say. I'm not a cold weather person. So
okay.
Yes. And we often have friends trying to convince us to go skiing for spring break, and that is just not my idea.
So how has it been for you in this time that there has been a lockdown in Texas? How has COVID impacted you and in your practice and your family?
Well, I mean, it's been life-changing, as I know it has for everyone. Our offices, our Austin office and Dallas office, have not officially reopened, nor has our Houston office. The attorneys are back in the office, but staff is not. And so I'm actually in our offices today for this interview, but I've only come up a few times so far. I'm hopeful that we will start to reopen soon. Our numbers have been dropping here in Texas in terms of the number of cases. So if that trend continues, I expect we'll start opening soon. For me, I have my husband and two teenage sons, and we're all working from our house and doing school from our house. And so it's a challenge to keep work and home separate in that sense. And, I have to be intentional about, at the end of the day, turning off the light in my computer and before I walk into the kitchen, so I don't go back in and just continue to work, off and on as the evening goes on. So I'm trying to pay more attention to that. But I've also tried to be intentional about checking in with our younger lawyers and my colleagues, but certainly our associates and my secretary, to just see how they're doing. And, do they have any challenges working from home that we as a firm can help them with in terms of like a printer or something like that. We did a lot of that kind of getting everyone set up early on. But, I have to say there have been many silver linings that I've seen. The amount of time that I've gotten to spend with my boys has been really a blessing.
Yeah.
So, it's been life-changing for sure. So.
What would you say is in all of this, like what is the biggest adjustment that you've had to make, and that you personally have had to make, and what is the biggest adjustment that your firm has had to make?
Well, so for the firm, get everything that has to do with running a business that we've now taken remote. So, we really we use Microsoft Teams. It's working very well for us. I think it's been our lawyers have done incredibly well, and staff, with the transition overall, I would say. But just making sure that everyone has what they need to keep practicing and keep serving clients timely, and making all of that run, as well as watching the numbers and trying to make these decisions about coming back. When do we come back, and what does our firm need to look like? What do our offices need to be set up for? And so, putting in place all of the protocols in the office, which we've done. So, we're set up and ready to go when we hit a number that we feel like we can return to the office safely. For me, the biggest thing that I've had to do is really just try to separate home and work, I would say. And because it just really has all blended together now that I'm just at home all of the time, doing my work, and also checking in with my clients. But for me, my clients are all over the state, so we've always communicated remotely. We've always just had phone calls. I don't see them very frequently, so not much has changed in that regard. But certainly with colleagues, not being able to walk down the hall and ask someone a question or pop in and check in on an associate, I miss that. And we've set up a lot of ways to interact on Teams that outside of actual formal firm meetings, but just like our women's initiative, we have a coffee and we have a happy hour all on Teams.
Oh,
so that's been a great way to stay connected and things like that. So
that's great. A happy hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Go
ahead.
Well, we started out with a happy hour, and then we changed to alternating between a happy hour and a coffee, because we have our women lawyers who have young kids, and so people with different schedules. We've tried to do what we can to have options so that everyone can have at some point participate.
Yeah. In our firm, what we did, we had a group event. It was a wine tasting. So this company that does wine tasting, what they do is they send everybody the different bottles of wine. Oh. And so you connect at a certain time, and there you are with the wine tasting. It's kind of a strange experience.
Yeah.
Because you're not, but it does help to build community and to continue to be interacting socially with
exactly,
with or building a relationship, or continue to have a relationship outside of the office, right? Yeah. So it's interesting how creative we've become with these little happy hours and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So what about with clients? I mean, well, you said that most of your clients are in state, but they're away from where you are. So you've communicated with them mostly. You're used to communicating with them mostly online.
Correct. By phone or email. Interestingly, clients that I've always spoken to on the phone and not done video calls, they also have had to implement Teams or Zoom in their businesses. And so now I'm actually seeing them, even though it's on video, more than I did pre-COVID, because we're using Teams also with our clients as well, if they want to meet that way. And so that's been really a positive, to actually see our clients and not just talk to them on the phone. That's a nice change. And, maybe that will continue post-pandemic. I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny, right? How we didn't use those platforms before, even though they were there. We just used the phone. There's some, I don't know how it is with some, I have some clients that are older in age, and they don't like this video thing. They prefer the phone.
Yes.
And they continue on, conference calls and that kind of stuff. It's interesting, but the younger ones are obviously, I have a hard time keeping up with them sometimes, because what? Google what? Google Forms, Google Maps. What are you talking about? I don't know, I have to get adjusted a little bit to reviewing documents in the way that, in the electronic platforms.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
When we've used, like, someone says, can you share your document? That was something I was not very tech savvy, and I'm still not tech savvy. My 13-year-old's my IT guy. So
Yeah.
so that kind of thing is still a challenge for me. But.
Yeah. How are there any particular initiatives in your firm that have come out of this pandemic or of this lockdown or this, not the pandemic, but the situation that we're living in? Anything specific that is like an initiative or a new practice or?
Well, so, we've been doing quite a lot of webinars, as a way to communicate with clients and potential clients. And we were doing some of that previously. Our employment law section would do some brown bag lunch webinars, but our CMO has really, she's been very focused on coordinating and having these webinars that we can put out there with spotlighting different attorneys in our firm, talking about maybe, really a lot of the employment lawyers, because there so many are dealing with needing employment counseling in this pandemic time, and what their rights and obligations are, to their employees and things like that. So we've been doing that, and then our women's initiative group is we're getting ready to host a luncheon that we typically do in person, where we have a speaker come and we have lunch. We invite clients or potential clients and things like that. And so we obviously aren't doing that. So we decided to do it in a virtual format. And one positive that's come out of that is that we used to, we had a cap on the number of people who could attend, because we were hosting it in a physical space. But it's not limited now as a webinar, and we've had many people have signed up. So that's a positive that's come out of it. I feel like we're able to reach more people with things like that than we have previously. And also doing this virtually, I think more people are likely to participate who, have too busy of a schedule to take the time out to, drive downtown and then do the event, drive home, and, do balance with your work and your kids and all of that. So
yeah,
I think we've really taken this as an opportunity in that respect to do some things that were more challenging pre-COVID.
Do you find that that's a great idea to have a luncheon where you have more people, but has that part of having these events in person is the networking that you do, that you sit next to someone, and that's how do you feel that has been affected, or how has that changed, or what has come from that? Is there something new, a new way of relating to each other, of doing networking?
Exactly. And some things that that I've experienced attending these, even ones not hosted by our firm, but also ways that we're doing it. And you're right, it's not the same, but like, if we have a speaker and then we break out into the breakout rooms, where they put like smaller groups of us together to talk about a subject, and then we come back and we report to the bigger group what our table, so to speak, discuss. And then another way that we plan to do that is by having if we have a morning seminar or a noon seminar, then in the evening doing a virtual happy hour in the evening to have an informal way to interact with people who participated in the formal meeting earlier in the day. And just as a thank you, we, similar to what you said, we've done some sending of bottles of wine, or sending a cheese plate with a bottle of wine to the client, or the participant. And so there are creative ways to do it, but you're absolutely right. It's not the same as for me to walk up to you and be able to talk to you, one-on-one in person. It's not the same.
So you were talking about this women's initiative that your firm has. Do you feel that because of this lockdown, the situation for women has been like stopped, or I mean, has it been affected, do you think, in some way, or has it continued at the same pace that it was?
I absolutely think that it has been affected. I think that this pandemic has had a disparate impact on women with respect to widening the gap, so to speak, in their professional career. And it's not necessarily limited to women, because I have plenty of colleagues who are men who have small kids at home, and so many kids are still homeschooling, have not returned, and so they're having to juggle that too. But I do view it as especially impacting our women lawyers, and we talk about that in our women's initiative group. How are we going to look at this time when women are on the partnership track, or when we're talking about compensation, and we have to go back and we look at the last 12 months or however long this goes on, and how will we evaluate them in this time? How will we evaluate our lawyers we've all had to make adjustments, but especially our women lawyers with small children. And I absolutely think that it has had a disparate impact, and I'm not making a generalization, but I think that it's not uncommon for a woman lawyer to have the responsibilities that we as parents have when we go home do not go away now. And
right.
So you're carrying both, and it's just tough. It really isn't. And we meet about it, and we talk about it, and are trying to come up with proposals for what can we do about this, and also really paying attention to the psychological and emotional impact that all of this is having, especially on our lawyers with young children.
Yeah. You mentioned it at the beginning of how this like work personal life balance is sort of, there's no line. You sort of have to, and at our firm at the beginning, our productivity, funny enough, went up because people were connected all day long.
Yeah.
And then sometimes what I find still now, after 6 months or 7 months of this, situation, is that people kind of expect you to be there at whatever time because they know you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But there's sort of like, this respect for your personal time that is non-existent in a lot of cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. So then that starts to impact on burnout. People start burning out because they're working all the time, or like some of our younger attorneys that don't have families, that are young, they have nothing else to do but work.
Mm-hmm.
Or they feel they have nothing else to do but work, and they've gone through Netflix, they've gone through iTunes, they've gone through Amazon Prime, they've seen everything they need to see, so they have nothing else to do but work. So it is that emotional aspect of it. Has your firm established any or has it made any adjustments or offered any programs on that in that respect?
Well, I mean, we certainly have said to our attorneys, be intentional about not emailing or messaging your secretary or your administrative assistant at 7 o'clock at night, or your paralegal, because they may very well, they would feel compelled to respond, and they are not. I mean, their day ends at 5 or at 6 or whatever their schedule is, and so we as lawyers tend to, just as you just said, we're always working essentially, and so we are much more likely, I think, now to message our staff at an hour that is not within the normal working hours where we were pre-COVID. So we reminded our lawyers of that, and we as our management team talks about this a lot, and about the mental impact that this is having on, we have to remember the toll that this is taking on people. So
Right.
mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have there been any new client requests or new opportunities of business that
Yeah.
have come in through this pandemic
Yes.
or lockdown situation?
Yeah. And so I would say yes, there absolutely have. I think the first several months, it was crisis management time. So our clients were calling and saying, a lot of potential breach of contract issues with, that having had scheduled conferences or, in-person meetings. And so what do we do, and how, will we be liable if we cancel? What is our liability exposure if we don't cancel and these people come and, and people get sick? So, and that continues. We continue to have those questions, but really at the beginning, there were a lot of requests for advice on dealing with COVID-induced breach of contract, for our employment lawyers advising clients on employer clients on their rights and obligations with respect to COVID-19 and their employees, and also the ongoing analysis of federal, state, and local orders that are constantly coming out and changing what businesses can open, to what extent can they open, all of those kinds of things. So, I mean, I would say that that's been a lot of what we've been dealing with. Thankfully, our clients are also, they're still operating, and they're still calling us, and they still need us. And, that's been a good thing. I mean, there may have been sort of a pause early on some, like on a deal, and we were kind of waiting what's going to happen, but things seem to by and large be moving forward, in terms of client work and client business transactions and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about, how's your state has it offered incentives to companies? Has it offered incentive to workers to, how's that going?
Well, so the main incentive program is the federal PPP, the PPP loan program, which it authorized loans to small businesses, as an incentive for businesses to continue to employ their employees, and you use the money for, if you meet the criteria for using the money for certain purposes, then that loan can be forgiven. And I think that was a game changer for a lot of small businesses who have been able to,
Okay.
to stay afloat that way and continue to operate. And, I mean, it's taken, the pandemic has taken a serious, it's had a significant impact on our Texas economy, I would say. I mean, we're in a better place than many other states, but bars, for instance, still aren't open. Our numbers have just recently, in mid-September, got to a level where restaurants and retail businesses and gyms can open at 75% capacity. So we started at 25, and then it went to 50, and then it went to 75. And so, we're seeing a lot of longtime establishments around the state that permanently closed. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I think all over the world, that's one of the, the food and beverage industry is one of the most affected, I think.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah. The hospitality industry, I think, all over. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's, you think here in Mexico, they've opened at 30%, and there are people that are going, but, our numbers, I don't know how, if we're, we're getting used to this reality where our numbers are very high and we're just sort of moving along, and that's just the way it is, or if there's going to be a point where it starts to go down, I don't know. And now we're starting with flu season, so I don't know how that's gonna impact even more on an economy that is already suffering, and that's all over the world, right?
Yes.
What about the energy sector that you practice in? How is that being impacted?
Well, so, separate from COVID-19, we had the disruption in the oil prices, and
right.
So, and you're right. I mean, that is a huge industry for Texas, and so it has also, that has had an impact on many of our clients, our oil and gas clients. I do not practice in the oil and gas section, but they continue to be busy. I think that the work may be different now than it was. I know that for me, I'm in the electric energy section. My clients are electric cooperatives and municipally owned utilities. And from that side, I've seen some bankruptcies filed by small oil and gas producers. And so as the electric energy service provider, we're seeing it from that end. So I know that there are companies in that industry that are not doing well. But I do think, pre-COVID, the Texas, our economy was strong, and I think that I don't think that it will take as long as it will in certain other states to come back as oil prices stabilize, and once we get a vaccine, or we get to a level where businesses can be fully up and running. I think that we will do well. Texas is a very pro-business state. We have no state income tax. We're an attractive destination for companies who are already here to expand and companies to come here, and I think that will continue. So, and the cost of living is lower than it is in California, New York, and Chicago, and so I think that that we will continue to be a destination for business.
Yeah. Have there been any significant changes to local laws that impact businesses or commerce?
Well, so, I mean, we have a statewide mask ordinance. So, that's, it took us a little while to get there too. I think that that's been a game changer on. I personally think it's been a game changer on containing the spread or mitigating it some. But as far as long term, and state laws, we have social distancing requirements or guidelines. At the local level, we continue to have all of those restrictions in place as well. So we have the ordinances coming from all levels of government. But I wonder what it will do to our social customs with respect to handshakes and just the way that we interact with each other and
I know.
I can't imagine ever going back to my small fitness center where I used to go in the morning and with people all around me. So
yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I go to the supermarket and somebody gets too close and I just look at them like, what? Move away.
Yes.
But I know. I know how that is. I don't know how we're going to go back. For us, for Mexicans, it's a hard thing because we're so touchy. We like touching people and hugging and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting. We'll see how that works. So what do you think? What do you have as? What would you say, or what do you think the future, the next 24, 18 months, 12 months are going to look like? I mean, there are a whole bunch of considerations, vaccine and election, and what do you think is gonna? What do you think that's gonna look like?
Be in large part driven by the vaccine, and when it's ready, how widely distributed it is, and how accepted it is by people to actually get the vaccine.
Right.
So I think that our success will, and what we look like post pandemic. What is post pandemic? I don't even know. What that will look like. I think I expect that many people will continue to work from home, at least part time. I think that people have realized that they can do it. They can do it successfully and productively, and I think we'll see that at least in part, especially in the with our technology businesses, and they were doing a lot of telecommuting before, but so I think that by having that, I would expect that there's a different view toward office space, and knowing that some of your employees may be able to work from home. Do you really need as much office space as you have now, or and as leases come due and you're looking for your next space? I think it will change what our workplace looks like, our physical workplace.
What do you think has changed? What do you think will stay or will remain even after this pandemic is over in your personal and in your business life? What?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with respect to my business life, I think that I probably will work from home more than I used to. I may come to the office 4 days a week and work from home 1 day a week because I know I can, and I'm fully set up to do that, just like I am in my downtown office. And once my kids are back physically in their school and not in our house, that will be even more, even make it even more feasible for me to work at home sometimes. So I've seen the efficiencies in that, and not not driving downtown and home in Austin traffic, and it gives me almost 2 hours of time that I otherwise lose in the car
Right.
when we're operating normal. So I think we'll see that. I think it's a lot of industries will see that. Maybe least so the legal industry. I know. I think that lawyers who practice in a firm want to be with their colleagues too. There's just as much technology as we can throw at it. It's not the same as walking down the hall and bouncing a question off someone, or collaborating in person. It's just not the same. So, and I think it will also depend on the age demographics of those lawyers, and who is, I think our younger lawyers are just in all, as we've already talked about, they'll be more likely to have that to want to have that flexibility.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
an interaction, right?
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, it's difficult to mentor an attorney remotely. So it's important for us to be in our office with our young lawyers, have them there too. I think, we have to think about that. So we can't, it can't be all remote all of the time when we have the ability to come back to work.
Yeah. At least for us, there'll be a lot of, Mexico's not as digitized, I guess, as a lot of other countries. So there's some areas that we can't go as quick, we can't react as quickly, right? Mm-hmm. But I think, that's one of the things that is going to change forever, is that going back to the office. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think a lot of people are not going to, especially because of traffic and because my assistant, for example, she spends it takes her 2 hours because of traffic to get to the office. And it takes her 2 hours to get back, right? And she has her car. If she used public transport, it would take longer because the city is so big and whatever. So I think those are some of the things that are going to change forever, is that office space, that you don't need that much. You don't need clients, and traveling, for example. Traveling is another one, to visit your clients.
Exactly.
People now, they've realized you don't need it. You don't need it. Every once in a while, maybe, but it's not justified.
Yeah.
To travel around the world, or even, all these events of networking have gone digital, and maybe they're not working as well, but they are being effective. So I think all that's going to be impacted forever.
I agree. And I think it will have an impact on the way that we budget, the way we budget for our client development. And
that's true.
Because
true.
We can host it, and obviously there's value to being in person, but I think that the way that we spend our money for business development events will change. And I think that the way our clients spend their money for to have their attorneys present across the state, and taking a 2 days to go and do those meetings will change. I think that
Well, thank you, Melissa, for this interview. It was very interesting. You learn a lot from talking to people from different states, and we get a lot of news of the country, right? But not of the individual states and what is happening in that individual state and the different areas. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Cristina. This has been really fun.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah.
And we'll sign off and have a great day.
You too. And I do hope I see you in person soon.
Yes, hopefully soon. Hopefully. I know. I know. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that concludes our recording. Thank you for joining us today. You can find this and many other episodes at scgglobalspin.com.